Seahawks fans, we have just witnessed one of the greatest seasons of football ever. A season that began with a young team on the rise, a team that came out of nowhere, a team that did not care how far the experts thought they would go. And it ended the only way it could, with an emphatic victory on the biggest stage in the world, a Super Bowl championship for the Seattle Seahawks. It was a season of belief, a season of unity, of mob mentality, a season of conquering, a season of healing, a season of dreams for 12s all over the world. Led by the dark side defense, the offensive player of the year, the Super Bowl MVP, and the quarterback that no one wanted. And if you're like me, you're not ready to move on. Welcome to the 12's War Room. This is where we keep the Seahawks alive all offseason through roster analysis, mock drafts, and offseason strategy, all aimed at one thing: building the next championship version of the team we love. All right, Hawks fans, welcome into the 12's War Room. This is a place for fans who enjoyed this Super Bowl championship season so much that you're just not ready to move on to other things. And if you're like me and you've already devoured every bit of Seahawks and Super Bowl content that there is, and maybe you've repeated it 2 or 3 times like me, now there's only one thing left to do, and that's to look ahead to what's next. So as you know, the 2026 NFL Draft is coming up in just a couple of months, and here we're going to walk through free agency implications. Then we're going to explore some potential, but what I believe are realistic mock draft scenarios and roster construction. Now, I am no scout, I am not a draft insider, and I'm not pretending to be the GM. I'm really just a Seahawks fan who isn't ready for the season to be over, but who's excited for what's next. So every episode is going to explore realistic outcomes of free agency along with a mock draft designed to show the different pathways the Seahawks could take. And we're going to try to balance the roster needs of the team, best players available, and the draft capital that we have. This isn't about predicting what will happen or about some rando like me telling you what I think should happen. It's about exploring how the next championship version of this team might be built and the logic behind different pathways to get there. When we talk about how to come up with the needs of a team, it really comes, I believe, from 3 places that you have to look at. The first is free agency departures. We have players who have come to the end of the contract, and some of them could leave. The second place that needs might come from are when we cut players, so cap casualties and things of that nature. We have 1 or 2 that could happen this year, even after a great season. And then I think the third place is when you have just players on your team that are worth keeping but who are underperforming and you think you could upgrade. So I think those 3 areas are some of the areas that we're going to try to explore in different ways today as we kind of go through. And then at the end of this video, being episode 1, we're going to actually do a mock draft based on a scenario that I think is fairly realistic, if not, it's reasonable anyway. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I want to start with free agency departures. So I've got here our list of the Seahawks free agents. Now this list includes those who are unrestricted free agents, and those who are restricted free agents. The team has a little bit more rights to those players. And then a couple who are, according at least to overthecap.com, are exclusive rights free agents. And the team has even more control over those players. What I'm going to go ahead and assume is that a lot of the exclusive right free agents and the restricted free agents, either we are going to re-sign them because you can do so at a pretty cheap amount, or that if they let these players walk, the idea is that we'll be able to replenish them with undrafted free agents and that sort of a thing. So I'm really not going to spend much time on restricted free agents. We're really just looking at the unrestricted free agents. There's also some players who are really more backup and or role players, and I'm not really gonna, you know, stress out about all the different scenarios about how to replace those guys. As good as Josh Jones and Drake Young and Chaz Surratt have been, they've all played important roles this year. It's no disrespect to them, but I'm just going to focus on our primary players that I consider starters in one way, shape, or form, which is that kind of middle section here. So of these players, you know, of course, we've got Kobe Bryant, we've got Josh Jobe, Tariq Woolen, Rashid Shaheed, Boye Mafe, and Kenneth Walker. All of these guys played significant snaps, and these snap counts are according to overthecap.com. Again, I don't know, I have not verified those numbers, but they look pretty solid to me. These are starters. But so there's a cool thing to be seen here as far as, you know, none of these guys except maybe Kobe Bryant and right now Kenneth Walker are true like number one starters on the team. So it doesn't mean that they're not important, of course. It just means that the Hawks go into this draft with no true, you know, gaping hole in their roster that they have to fill right now. I put it up here kind of, you know, what it might take to re-sign these players. So on PFF, Pro Football Focus, they have a top free agents list, and they list out what they think an expected contract could be to get these guys signed, whether with the Seahawks or in free agency with another team. They don't have Jobe on there because he's not in their top 100 free agents. And as I look at those amounts that they're projecting, the reality is that I think that they might be a little low on all of them. Sadly, for us, you know, whenever you win a Super Bowl, there's a premium placed on your players, and I think it's going to be tough to retain these guys at those amounts. I could be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. I would not be disappointed, but I do think that it's going to cost a little bit more. So I put my numbers up here, and they're just my numbers. You know, there's no science behind it. I just think that based on some of the other contracts that I see, and again, that premium of winning the Super Bowl, I think this is what it might take to keep our guys. The Seahawks go into this free agency period with about $62 million of cap space per over the cap. That's pretty good, really. It's one of the tops in the league. I believe it's fifth or sixth place in the league. The immediate challenge you see here is that when you add up my projection of the contract, the annual contract that would be required to keep these guys, you're looking at upwards of $86 million. So we don't have anywhere near the cap space that it might take to keep all six of these guys, to say nothing for all those restricted free agents that are you know, if we're going to keep them as well. And then, of course, as everyone knows, we need to figure out when and how to get extensions done for JSN and for Witherspoon, who are going to be eligible for that extension very soon. We do have a fifth-year option with those guys. Schneider has normally not used that fifth-year option on his first-round draft picks, but he did a little bit ago on Charles Cross, who then he promptly extended. But so it could happen, but it is a very good idea to keep some of our cap space for those pending extensions that we need to get done. All that is to say, I really don't think we're going to be able to keep all six of these guys. As much as I'm disappointed in it, we're going to have to say goodbye to some of these. Which means, from a draft standpoint, it does create potential needs anyway at these positions: safety, cornerback, receiver, edge, and running back. Now, when you go to different mock draft websites and things like that, they have their own evaluation of what needs a team has. When I go to PFF, which is my personal favorite for mock drafts, they generally coincide with what I have. I put edge and receiver on there. They don't. And then they put center guard or interior offensive line and linebacker. I'm not necessarily going to argue with them. Linebacker is not viewed as a tremendous position of, you know, of superstar strength for us. I think Ernest Jones is awesome, and Drake Thomas, holy cow, that guy came out of nowhere, and I thought he played out of his mind this year. So he's I don't know if you caught it, but he's one of our restricted free agents this year, and so I definitely hope we can get him taken care of, which is what you see here up here. So being a restricted free agent, I do expect us to be able to get him back. I'm not like really panicking over offensive line and linebacker. Now, when it comes to the interior offensive line, I suppose it is worth mentioning because I did say earlier that one of the reasons why teams might have a need at a certain position is because maybe there's a player that's underperforming and that you feel like you can get an upgrade. Of course, there is everyone's favorite right guard, Anthony Bradford, who we all love to hate on. Now, this is a player who he's had an up and down career here in Seattle. Just go on YouTube or anywhere you like to watch videos on, and you can watch all sorts of videos of him either crushing his assignment and just absolutely destroying a linebacker or wrecking everything in his path. Unfortunately, there are also probably more videos of him wrecking the play. He's kind of a polarizing guy. If you took an honest look at all of the Seahawks starters and you asked yourself who may be the player or the starter anyway who's most in need of an upgrade, and a lot of people I think would probably conclude that right guard is that position. This might not be a very popular opinion, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you know what? He's not the best guard in the world, but we just won a Super Bowl with him, and he did not get in the way of that. He had good games and he had bad games. In fact, if you look at his pressure rates and stuff like that, what you'll see is a lot of our offensive linemen that we generally like and respect and talk very positively about had similar pressure rates that he did. It's just that when they do it, they don't quite do it in such an embarrassing way. So that really works against Bradford. But you know what? I'm not going to take guard off the list of needs, but I'm also not going to like really put it high on my priorities. If we can replace him with somebody great, then wonderful. If not, I do think we have other needs that I'm going to prioritize for the most part ahead of him. So combining my list of needs with PFF's list of needs, we're looking at corner, edge, running back, wide receiver, safety, interior offensive line, and linebacker. These are the positions where if an opportunity comes, these are probably the positions that we're going to really focus on. If you want kind of my sequence or my priority order, it'll just depend on what happens in free agency. I mentioned another area of activity that causes a team to have needs in the draft is cap casualties. So we have a lot of guys on veteran contracts, and they have, some of them have larger cap hits than others. So here from overthecap.com, I've got the numbers organized by cap savings, whether if we cut them before June 1st. So these are the potential cap savings if guys are to be cut. I put in a column over here as well if we wanted to defer some of the dead money into next year, we could cut them after June 1st. As well, we could also restructure, which is a mechanism that teams have where they change how prorated signing bonuses are handled in the cap. Really, all they really do is they push pain into future years. And I believe that John Snyder and the Seahawks and Mike McDonald are trying to build a team that is going to be sustainably good. And so let's not rob tomorrow to help today when we have a fair amount of cap space as it is. So I'm going to take those last two off as we analyze cap casualties. Here's the real true list. Now, some of these guys on here, I'm going to throw them out because they've either outplayed their contract or they're so crucial to the team, or to sign a similar guy, you're just going to end up paying more anyway. And so all these ones that I've crossed out, I'm really not even going to look at. So I'm really narrowing it down to just these five guys. You've got Nwosu, you got Bradford, as I talked about, Jaron Reed, Eric Saubert, and Cooper Kupp. And these are the only guys that have positive cap savings if you were to move on from them. Cooper Kupp, according to Over the Cap anyway, you're just not going to save very much. So I think unless he retires, I think Cooper Kupp is here to stay for another year. I think Eric Saubert plays an important role in the offense, and his savings isn't very much either. Likewise, Jaron Reed, just a big leader there. Not a whole lot of cap savings to be had there, to be honest. Bradford, I've already talked about him a little bit. You can cut him, I guess, and you can save $3.6 million, and your dead cap money is very little, only $200,000. But honestly, if you've ever gone out and looked at the projected contracts for a decent guard, they're expensive. Which just wait until Gray Zabel comes up. He's gonna make a lot of money when he's ready for his second contract. So $3.6 million, is that really enough to save when you're gonna give it up? Unless you can just hit a home run on a guard in the draft. I don't know. I don't know if it's the right move to just to expect to have to get rid of Bradford as much as some people may not love him much. I think Uchenna there at the top, I think he's probably your biggest candidate, which is difficult because, again, edge I think is already going to be a position of need. He's been an amazing player for us. I know he was up and down with some injuries, but this year he played really really solid. Everybody, of course, will remember him forever for his pick six in the Super Bowl. But he's been a really good, quiet, solid, just a hardworking guy for the team. I don't know that they'll move on from him. I think he still has a lot of value. But if they do find themselves in a need for salary cap space, he might be on the fringes there. So just keep your eyes open for that. So again, if that is the case, and then we do move on from Uchenna Nwosu, that does create a need at edge going into the draft. So heading back to those positions of need that I talked about, these are the positions, again, that really, as I do mock drafts in each different episode, we're going to focus on these positions, but I'm going to probably do it in different scenarios. So for example, I think for mock draft number one, the first scenario I'm going to go to is I'm going to say that everybody in red is a guy that we are not going to be able to retain. Kobe Bryant, who I love, just an awesome player. He's guy's always around the ball. I hate to lose him. I did, listening to Brady Henderson and some of the other people who talk about him, the Seahawks did try to extend him, from what I understand, at the beginning of this year. And they opened those negotiations with him, but they were so far apart that apparently the conversations broke down really fast. So, Kobe may be out there wanting to get top dollar on the safety market. And so that may be really difficult for us to retain. Reek Woolen, what can I say about our friend Reek Woolen? Did he ever really truly play up to his potential after his near Defensive Rookie of the Year campaign when we all got so enamored with him? I don't know. He's been up and down. He really did have a solid year. He played great. And then, he kind of bookended it, unfortunately. He started poorly and then sort of ended poorly as well. I don't need to get into everything that's been said about what he did in the Rams game. And I think of all of our players, I think he's the one I look at and question the most of whether or not he fits into that MOB mob mentality that Mike McDonald really goes for. So we'll see. I don't expect us to keep him. As well, with the amount of money that he's going to command on the open market, I just don't think we're going to be willing to pay that. And then lastly, Boye Mafe, who's in a similar position as far as what I just said about how much he's going to command on the open market. A good, solid, productive edge rusher like Mafe is going to command a lot of money. We might look at him and go, gee, he never really had all the sacks that we thought he was going to have. But this is a guy who's very productive. He has a lot of hurries, some quarterback hits. He did get some sacks. He's a good player. And he's going to get a lot of money. And I just don't know that we're going to be willing to pay him that much. So, again, I'm not trying to predict what's going to happen. I'm just telling you that in this scenario, in my mock draft 1.0, these are the three guys that I think we stand to lose in this scenario. That's the mindset that I'm going to go into in this first mock draft that I'm going to do. Namely, that we're going to need to replace a safety, replace a cornerback, and replace at least one edge rusher. If I go back to Nwosu, it could be two edge rushers that we have to replace. So those are going to be the real strong focus positions for us. Now, I put running back on here as well in orange. The reason being, in this scenario, I'm going to assume that we're going to keep and extend Kenneth Walker. But as you guys all know, Zach Charbonnet went out very late in the year in the divisional round with a torn ACL. And the recovery time on that is a very long time. There's a very good chance that he's not going to be ready to go until the second half of the season. So I do think running back is likely to be a need. Now we have Kenny McIntosh, we have George Holani. I hope McIntosh is back fully healthy. I guess we're going to find out. And we've got a couple other guys like Velus Jones Jr. and there's always undrafted rookies out there, but I think for a team that prioritizes the run game as much as the Seahawks, we really should keep running back at the forefront of our mind as we go into this mock draft. So let's jump into it. For our first mock draft, we're going to go over to Pro Football Focus. Now, I mentioned before, PFF is my favorite simulator for mock drafts. I think they do excellent work in their analysis and all the data and the statistics that they provide. And so that's what we're going to use. I suppose I should mention that I do pay for the premium subscription with PFF during this time of the year so that I can do full 7 rounds if I want, or I can, there's different configurations that you can do in order to customize how you want to do your draft. So with that, we're just going to jump in and I'll kind of explain how I do things along the way. Again, this is not me trying to predict what will happen. This is simply my method of showing you how they might go about successfully building a draft class with the draft capital that they have, which is fairly limited. I'll get to that in a second. But in order to tackle those needs, again, if you go back, if you remember the needs that we talked about, cornerback, edge, safety, and running back are the primary targets. As far as how to configure this, I'm just going to keep it going fast. I kind of like tinkering with this just a little bit, and we'll mess with these things as we go along. I like a little bit of randomness. You can never quite predict how general managers and fun owners who like to get involved with things. So I like a little bit of randomness. Keeps things a little more interesting. Now, as you can first see, the Seattle Seahawks, they did trade away their 4th and 5th and 6th round picks. 4th and 5th came in the Rashid Shaheed trade. But as it stands, we have a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, and our 7th round pick. And as you guys know, when you are the Super Bowl champion, you pick very last in each of those rounds. So we do not have a ton of draft capital. If I know John Schneider, the odds of him just picking straight with those 4 picks, I think, are very low. I do think that he will try to trade back and pick up a couple picks at least, especially given those needs that we have. It's going to be really difficult to fill all those needs with only, really 3 draft picks. That's not that you can't get a starter in the 7th round, but again, your probability of doing so is pretty small. So I'm going to approach my drafts with that in mind, that when I can trade back in order to pick up some more 2nd rounders or 3rd rounders or even 4th rounders, occasional 5th rounders. I think there's some guys out there that are worth looking at. I may do that. Now you can get crazy with trades in mock drafts and including in PFF. I can fleece other teams if I want to. Shoot, you can even force trades. I'm not going to do any of those shenanigans. I'm going to try to make this somewhat realistic. But I'll show you when I do a trade how I determine what I think is a little more realistic or fair. So let's get this mock draft started. Now we could sit here and watch the other teams and who they pick, but in the wise words of Coach Mike McDonald, we did not care. So here we are with the 32nd pick in the draft, the final pick in the 1st round. We have some guys here that don't necessarily fit the needs that we have. The first true kind of need position that we have is Brandon Cisse, who is a guy that a lot of people mock to the Seahawks. He's a South Carolina Gamecock. Sound familiar to you Nick Immanwari fans? 6-foot corner, outside corner. Pretty good on the passer rating, great in the run defense grade. We know that we want corners who play the run well, who stick their nose into the fire and go into it on the run game. Really good option there if we want to pick at 32. We also have Keith Abney, another good corner, also 6 feet tall, and equal grades, if not just maybe a little bit better on the pass coverage, not quite as good on the run defense, but another good outside corner. Those are 2 good options. Like what I said before, when I said that if I'm John Schneider, I'm going to explore trade opportunities to grow my draft capital. Looking at this, okay, so I know I can manufacture trades if I want to with other teams. I can propose trades, But in order to kind of keep it realistic, I like to try to stay when I can with the trades that are proposed to me. Going all the way back to 54 from 32 is kind of a long way. I don't love that. I know I could get some extra picks for sure, but then you're really going into the bottom half of the second round. So not only do you not really have a first round pick, but then you're barely getting a second round pick. I don't love that. I want to get a guy who's at least at the top of the second round, if not the bottom of the first. I'm going to go ahead and with cornerback need on my mind, I'm going to go ahead and draft Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina. And then we'll move on to our next pick at number 64. Okay, here at pick number 64, we already got our cornerback, and I love how the very next player on the board is an edge rusher, and a darn good one out of Michigan. He's 6'3", 260, so fair size. Got an 89.9 overall grade. Pass rush grade is excellent, 92.4. Fairly good in the run defense as well. 11 sacks, 9 hits, 21 hurries. Played mostly outside tackle. This sounds like a good rotational pass rusher for us. So we're going to definitely keep him in mind. We are going to, however, take a look and make sure we're not skipping on anybody else that we like. We do want a running back. Jadarian Price is a great option at this stage, but I'm going to go ahead and draft the edge rusher, Derek Moore out of Michigan, with the 64th pick. Now, I've already taken 2 out of 2, and I've only got my third round pick left before I get into the really deep rounds. So at this point, I'm probably going to have to start taking some trade scenarios more seriously. I only have one offer. We're going to see what it is. So it's moving back from the 96th pick to the 104. Not a terrible drop. Now, the sad part is that here, pick number 96, we have the 78th ranked player in Jonah Coleman, who happens to be a running back, a position of need for us. And for those of you who can guess, being a Seahawks fan that I am, I'm also a Husky fan. So I'm a big fan of Jonah Coleman, tough rusher. Played 3 solid years. He's been one of the best players in college football, if you ask me. So I really like this. I'm super tempted to take him right here. But again, if I do that, then I'm not going to be able to really capture any other draft capital with this. So I'm going to forego that. I'm going to go ahead and trade back. That'll at least give us a little bit more room to work with. Again, I'm going to keep it above 50%. That is my target for making sure that trades are done fairly. You can fleece teams, like I said, but I just don't want to do that. I want to keep it reasonable. So right here, this is a 60% chance of success, and we'll see if they take it. Okay. I'm not sure in real life if the Seahawks are going to do much trading with the Arizona Cardinals, but you never know. So we're going to go ahead and wait and see. Coleman did come off the board. I saw that. It's a shame. But now here with the 104th pick, there's another trade opportunity. There is a guard here. In fact, there's a couple guards that I kind of like, both Keelan Rutledge and Billy Schroth. But I am going to go ahead and explore another trade. Looks like we can go back just a couple more picks, and we're going to see if we can't improve a little bit. This is not going to net us much because it's only a few picks. So let's... Okay, we're going to give up our late round picks to try to pick up one more. We'll see if they take it. They did. So we actually gave up some picks there, but we moved way up. So we improved our position quite a bit. Okay, just going back over, we have our cornerback need solved, our edge need solved, and now we are into some other players. Treydon Stukes. Here's a guy that I think we should take a look at. 90.1 overall grade. 90.4 coverage, good run defense again. This guy plays a lot in the slot and a lot in the box. Okay, and he's done that now for several years. Had a 34.4 passer rating. Very, very little giving up. 4 interceptions on the year. Very good player to keep our eyes open for. There are no running backs unless I reach just a little bit to grab Nicholas Singleton. I am going to forego that. We can look and see if we want to trade one more time. I don't love the options here, so we're going to go ahead and take trade on Stukes. Now, I know some of you are thinking, what the heck, you already grabbed a cornerback. Why are you doubling up? Well, Stukes is a guy that I like for that Kobe Bryant role. Kobe Bryant came out of college as a slot corner and eventually developed into an excellent safety. I believe that a similar career path could be in store for Stukes, so I'm going to go ahead and grab him. Now we're coming down on our last two picks, and they're almost back to back, 139 and 141. Okay, here at pick 139, I'm just trying to get an idea for who's up here. As far as needs go, it would be wonderful to get out of this draft with at least one running back that we think could get into the mix for us. There's also a couple other players on here that I think we should take a look at. Jaden Ott, he's decent. I don't love the numbers, so I'm kind of skipping over him. The guy that I kind of like from a running back standpoint is down here a ways. His name is Mike Washington. Tough runner out of Arkansas. Productive career, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns on the year, 6.4 yards per carry. So I like him. It'd probably be a little bit of a reach to grab him now at 139 when there's still so many people in front of him. I did already do my two kind of trades that I try to do. I like to not overdo trades because I don't think it's very realistic. There's a guy on here that I think we should take a look at. His name is Bo Stevens, left guard out of Iowa. Iowa is a great factory for some good guards. He's a big dude, 6'5", 315. Now he plays left guard, and my Anthony Bradford fan club out there knows that Anthony Bradford is a right guard. But I don't think it would be too much of a struggle for someone like Bo Stevens to switch over to right guard. And at worst, he's providing some depth in case we need him. So I like this pick, and I think we're going to go ahead and grab him at 139. Last but not least, on our final pick at 141, I mentioned that we probably really do want to get out of this draft with a running back. I am going to go ahead and reach a little bit, and we're going to grab Mike Washington Jr. Okay, we're going to fast forward this draft all the way to the end. We basically took most of day 3 off. So here is our kind of report card from PFF. Normally, I don't mind too much if they grade me poorly or not. Again, the needs that I believe we have are a little bit different than the needs they believe that we have. And there's some players that I really like and I'm willing to go get, especially in those later rounds. There's just, it's hard to evaluate the difference between the 130th best player and the 150th best player. And so if I reach a little bit, say, for pick 139, if I reach and get the 148th best prospect, well, that's fine. They're going to give me a B. I don't mind that. But I like this draft. We got our cornerback to replace Woolen. And in fact, we have trade on Stukes, who, if Cisse, for whatever reason, doesn't work out, Stukes could possibly compete for that corner spot as well. He is primarily a slot corner, so I view him again more in that Kobe Bryant role, so maybe a little bit more of a safety. Derek Moore, I think, is going to come in and immediately contribute in a rotation, so he's going to take the spot that Mafe is leaving behind, if not Nwosu. Bo Stevens, again, to provide some competition at guard, and Mike Washington, a good tough runner out of Arkansas, made a career out of running against tough competition, so he would fit right in for that kind of Charbonnet role, if you will. So that's our draft. We checked most of our boxes. We didn't get a receiver, and maybe if we stand to lose both Nwosu and Mafe, another edge rusher could have come in handy. But I think I like where we are. A- feels about right. Maybe I would grade us a little bit more like a B+. Sometimes I like to get a few more than 5 picks, but I think this was a good job. So that's the scenario where we need to fill those specific needs. There will be other episodes where we explore other needs and other things as free agency starts kicking in, as players get extended, or as they sign with other teams, or as if we cut people anything like that, you will see me jump on and make a new video, a new episode about what the scenario looks like at that point in time. I plan to do this all the way up through the end of the draft. So that concludes episode 1 and mock draft 1.0. Just for fun, I'll probably do a couple more mock drafts in the near future. Maybe it'll be 1.1 where I do the same needs, or I'll do 2.0 where the needs are different. But stay tuned for more from the 12's War Room. Thanks, everybody.